Hi, this is Mark Lee Morrison from the podcast Low Profile. I live in Olympia, Washington with my wife and 2 daughters, and I support Vish Khanna's Creative Control on Patreon because I appreciate his journalistic integrity. Vish talks with a lot of artists I care about, and he never asks any boring questions. I love hearing his interviews, and as a Patreon supporter, I get to hear even more of them. If you enjoy Creative Control too, I implore you to join me as a sustaining contributor.
To make your flexible monthly donation to Creative Control, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control today.
Without any further ado, friends, I bring to the stage a man who is both an officer and a gentleman. Please give a New York City welcome to Eugene Mirman!
Thank you all so very, very much.
Eugene Mirman is a tremendously funny comedian who is currently based in the state of Massachusetts. A beloved stand-up and writer with an idiosyncratic bent towards the absurd and specials and albums released by the likes of Suicide Squeeze and Sub Pop, Mirman is also a published author, but is perhaps best known for his roles as a landlord on Flight of the Conchords, and as a boy named Gene on the hit animated series Bob's Burgers. His latest work is a very funny and moving documentary called It Started as a Joke. It traces the 10-year history of his landmark Eugene Mirman Comedy Festival, which took place in Brooklyn between 2008 and 2018, and this film features appearances and performances by figures like Michael Ian Black, Kristen Schaal, Wyatt Cenac, Ira Glass, John Hodgman, Kumail Nanjiani, Reggie Watts, Michael Showalter, Janine Garofalo, Jim Gaffigan, John Glazer, Mike Birbiglia, and Bobcat Goldthwait, among others. The film also lovingly documents Eugene's relationship with his wife, Katie Westfall Tharp, who battled cancer for almost a decade before succumbing to the disease on January 29th, 2020. Eugene took a short break from caring for his son at home during this COVID-19 pandemic reality to tell me all about It Started as a Joke, which was released on video-on-demand services on April 3rd, 2020, why he started a comedy festival, whether or not his prescience about how comedy works now might mean he's a time traveler, what he and his wife hoped their son might take away from this film, future plans, and more. A part of the Entertainment One network with the support of listeners like you who subscribe to this podcast and spread the word about it, and make flexible monthly donations at patreon.com/Creative Control, plus in-kind support from Pizza Trokadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, and Grandad's Donuts in Hamilton. This is the 535th episode of Creative Control, featuring the very thoughtful and daringly amusing Eugene Mirman, with your host, me, Vish Khanna. Hi, Eugene. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. It's nice to speak with you again. First of all, where in the world are you?
I'm on Cape Cod in Massachusetts.
Yes. How are things going there, given everything that's going on in the world as we're speaking?
I mean, everything is as good and terrible as it is anywhere else. There's confirmed cases locally, but I am at home, and I've been self-quarantining for several weeks with my son. And, we have a swing set and a backyard, so I don't know. I mean, it's just what it is.
Is this I've heard from some people who are maybe a bit like us, who do spend a lot of time inside on their computers doing things, who suggest, it's not that much of a difference. Do you agree or relate to that in any way?
I would relate to it more if I didn't have a toddler that I now can't bring anywhere but my own home.
Yes.
So and we can go like for walks in the forest and stuff like that, and we can go to like sort of empty, beaches, not like to swim, but just to throw rocks and stuff. So yeah, I mean that part is, the part where sort of there isn't you like anything to do or in that sense is okay, but the part where I'm actively taking care of a child and can't go anywhere is like that is hard.
Yeah, well, I have two children, small children of my own, and my wife and I are both working from home. It's complicated. It's very complicated. But what are we going to do? This is what we have to do.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I want to start off right away, or almost right away, by expressing my condolences to you over losing your wife Katie to cancer. I'm devastated by it. If that makes any sense to you, we don't know each other very well, but I just wanted to say that right away and ask how you and Oliver are kind of doing.
Thank you. I mean, it's very strange. I mean, we've gone from, I was so focused. I mean, just grieving and sort of just kind of navigating everything with him to, in lockdown in a pandemic, it went from just like trying to figure out how to talk about all of this to just also being like doorknobs are now dangerous and there's no more cafes. So it's just kind of strange, but, I think, we're in a sense doing as well as can be, but it's just, hard things are simply hard.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I want to begin asking you about this film. So let's jump into that. How did the idea for making it started as a joke kind of come about as a film?
Well, I think Julie and I had always talked about trying to maybe make some sort of document of our festival, and we'd never really recorded much of it because part of it was sort of that, people would come and they would have fun and it wasn't being recorded to be sold or anything like that. But then as, time went on and we both realized that, we both had moved to Massachusetts, which is where we're both from, and that doing the festival, in a sense wasn't realistic to continue. We thought it would be great to try to, document this final year.
Okay. So one of the premises of the story of the Eugene Mirman Comedy Festival is that it was kind of making fun of other similar events or other festivals. What was sort of wrong with comedy or music festivals at the time that you started yours, so to speak?
Well, it's funny. It's not even, I don't really I think of it as like making fun of a thing or teasing stuff. I don't think like, I'm not sure our festival was meant to correct the behavior of any other festival. You know what I mean? Like there were things we thought were silly and we would make fun of sort of those things. I remember one year, each year we would just do different dumb stuff. And one year we made up a sponsor called Web Thing. And then we made posters that made no sense and put them up around, Bell House. And I remember overhearing people in line being like, I can't believe they sold out. So whatever that is, that's very exciting to us. I mean, there's a lot of festivals that have shows that sort of like will be like, here's naughty moms, and right. I think it's funny, but I also think it's fine. Like if 9 naughty moms want to be on a show, they're welcome to do it,
So in your little subtle jabs at such programming decisions or the way things were framed, did you see any improvement over other similar festivals? Did other festivals catch wind of kind of the conventions or the things you were making fun of and be like, yeah, they're right. We got to stop doing that.
not necessarily. I mean, I have no idea. Meaning like, I don't know if Naughty Moms sells out, keep booking Naughty Moms. And if it doesn't, I don't know. Like I think our festival, we were essentially trying to sort of break even or maybe make a little bit and like kind of have fun. Which is the same reason we couldn't keep doing it. And also there's a certain degree to which like people would commit to do it, but if something came up and they would have to bail, like somebody when we screened this, I think at South by, somebody was like, well, why didn't you just take it to a bigger venue or something? Like why didn't we just do it at like an amphitheater or stadium? And it's just sort of like, our goal wasn't to figure out how to make a ton of money from John Oliver. It was just to do this fun thing for a while we could.
Yeah, no.
So in that same sense, I don't know, like other festivals, I think are, they're probably a yearly endeavor of a group of people who are using it as their livelihood, and what they're doing has to make sense in a different way than what we were doing.
I mean, as you may recall, I've been sort of following your career and been a fan. We've spoken a number of times.
Yes.
It occurred to me that, the Eugene Mirman Comedy Festival is another extension of your interest in pushing absurdity as far as it can seemingly go. And yet, one of the things that we come away from with this film is that all of this seemingly self-sabotaging type, like not taking anything too seriously, you're all thriving rather well at the moment, which is amazing. It's great. But it does seem to me that you didn't think did you think that your comedy festival was going to last more than a year? Or did you really think like, I'm going to do this and it's going to be, well, I'm certainly didn't think it was going to last 10 years, but it's so absurd. Like, did you ever question the fact that it was succeeding?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's sort of like, I don't know how to put it. It's sort of like, I don't know that I think of it as successful or unsuccessful, meaning like, I don't know that that's the standard you judge exactly a thing. We were doing a thing for fun that could be put on at that scale. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So did I think like we could, in a sense, indefinitely do it at that scale? Maybe we could probably keep doing it, but in terms of like it being like successful or not, I just don't know what that is being judged by exactly. Like, meaning, could we, in a sense, afford to keep doing it? Not exactly. Could we get? I mean, in a sense, could you get tons of sponsors? Maybe, but like to reach. What's funny is like, that the venues are only like, they're 400, 500 people. So like, if you're putting on shows for a total of say 3,000 people or something, like no one's good. No company's going to give you $100,000 to sponsor a festival that reaches not that many people, and then also they'll probably want stuff from you. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm very glad we did it as long as we did, and I really love doing it, and it's super fun. And Julie and I will continue to do things together and put on events together and work on projects together. Whether it's the festival or something else, I have no idea.
Okay, well, in the film, many of your colleagues view you and describe you as this key figure in galvanizing New York's comedy community. There are, as I mentioned, there are comedians who are featured in this film who credit you with helping them achieve the stardom they have now. And I wonder how you process that. How would you characterize this role of yours as it's perceived by others?
I mean, I think it's very, very sweet of people. I am glad to have helped anyone I have, and I think that I appreciate it, but I also very much think that all the sort of, like, we're talking about very talented, very driven people who I wanted in my orbit as much as that in any way helped them, so I feel like the festival, the sort of community of it is great. I'm trying to put on a good show as much as they would like to be on a good show. So I think in that sense, I think it's, wonderful that people, I think it's very sweet of people to think of things that way. But I also think of them as sort of like inevitable and unstoppable. Well, not that anyone was trying to stop them.
The film made me kind of rethink my perception of your artistic instincts, if that makes any sense. Like, there's a sequence or a scene rather, where Michael Ian Black is shown kind of just describing the early internet videos that you made. And I remember watching them with my friends, and we would laugh uproariously at these ridiculous things. And it occurs to me in watching this film, like, you were, and I think maybe they're getting at this too, you were kind of ahead of your time. I know this is going to be very difficult for you to speak to, but it feels to me and to your colleagues that you were kind of ahead of your time. You had instincts for where comedy might be going because I think a lot of what you used to do has been borne out by the way we process culture, the way people access the internet as artists and as fans.
Yeah.
Do you feel I'm not trying to get you to say I was right or what have you, but do you have a sense of that? Like I was kind of onto something.
I mean, I feel like definitely like starting in the, mid-late 90s, I was making sort of these strange two-camera videos that are now, I think, much, much more common.
Yeah.
In sort of one of the ways that people do comedy. So, yeah, and I think, I mean, it's funny because in certain ways I tried to incorporate, I guess, but also, like, I would say technology or something, but some of it is more that I would do what I like, use what I had access to try to make funny stuff. And also those videos, I couldn't put myself on television because that's a thing people can't do. But I could make a video that I would put on the internet, and this is before YouTube, mm-hmm. and have that, emailed around to people. I could make a funny website that gets sent around, and that's one way to sort of try to become a full-time comic. So I partially was doing, one, what I thought was funny, and then two, anything I thought I could to sort of create a career.
Is it gratifying for you to think that you were, like I say, again, awkward? You are ahead of the curve is what I'm getting at. And like I say, a lot of your peers basically say the same in their sort of testimonials about you, this festival, your work ethic. Do you feel that way?
I mean, I don't know. Like, sure, I feel like I did the things I did. Meaning, like, I don't know. Like, is the question what the kind of comedy I did from like starting in like the late 90s is now the comedy of today, and and the only thing that was missing is me in like 1998 going, I know what's coming. I'm ready for it, and you will be unprepared.
As I recall, you have done bits about time travel in the past.
It's
You've
true.
Played characters who have traveled through time. I'm starting to wondering. I'm just wondering how close to fact those bits were. I think maybe are you hiding something? Are you a time traveler, Eugene?
That if I was, I would have. I tried to get America to be more prepared for the pandemic, but I think I would have tried even harder if I was a time traveler.
Fair enough. You, in terms of you being a tastemaker, if you will, what about the music in the film? I just realized as you were speaking, I was just thinking about the Magnetic Field songs, the Robin Hitchcock songs here. Can you talk about that? The choices you made here?
Well, so Julie directed and edited with the editor of the film with us giving feedback, but obviously the music is stuff that we, both found, though some of it was stuff that we both found together. But it's a lot of, bands we like. There's the song Bushel and a Peck by Doris Day, which is a song that Katie loved and really reminds me of her. Yeah, and a lot of it is also bands that we know and love, New Pornographers, Blitz and Trapper, so I'm actually, really, really thrilled. And then of course Robin playing his song at the festival and that being in the film, I really love. So I was very excited about getting to use and being able to use all that music that, is great. Death Cab for Cutie.
It's great. It actually adds a lot of flavor. In particular, I'm thinking of the rather long sequence, and the name of the segment is escaping me, and I know it's a really simple name, but of Ira Glass and a lot of you getting just completely hammered.
Yes.
What's it called again?
That was the drunk show. That was the
The
talent
drunk
show. It was a show called The Talent Show that did different themes, and that time it was the drunk show. Yeah.
So I had not heard of this. I unfortunately never got to. I always made a plan to try to attend one of these festivals, but I just never, up in Canada, I never got around to it, and I'm sorry. I just want to apologize for not attending. I feel like maybe if I had, it'd still be going if I went, probably.
I'll try to do a silly show sometime in the future that you can come to.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. But this Ira Glass sequence, is this sort of the stuff of lore? Do a lot of people talk about the drunk show in your circles? Because I just had not heard of this.
Medium. I think it's more. So I think the year it happened, maybe Time Out New York, like had a list of like the 100 best shows or something of the year, and maybe did put it at like number one or something, like that. But not specifically, not more than other sort of things, I guess. But yeah, it was a crazy show.
Are there similar shows that you that made some kind of draft or edit of the film that ended up being cut that you want to highlight? Just something that you thought, man, it kind of sucks we couldn't fit this in, but this was also an incredible thing.
No, I mean there were performances in the festival, and I don't know if some of it involved, what it was, but no, there isn't anything like there wasn't like something that we really wanted to include specifically. I mean, there's so much, there are things that we just like never taped. Like the very first year, Julie got the musical guest to be John Oates.
Right.
And what's so funny is he did 2 songs, and for the first song, a lot of people thought it was Fred Armisen doing a character. This is before I think this is actually, I think, right before maybe how he got the idea to do Oates on SNL. But and then after that, like he told a story, and then people were like, "Oh, this is John Oates," and that was awesome. But we don't have a recording of it, and that was a sort of really fun, kind of amazing thing. And I don't know if we have footage of I don't think we have footage of the awkward party bus, or we one year I think had a limo that would shuttle people to the subway. Yeah, I think that might have been our first or second year, and I think that was because Julie and I literally walked past like a limo waiting somewhere and asked how much it would cost to have them shuttle people for 5 hours the next day or something. I don't remember exactly, but I think it's more stuff like that than any specific show.
I enjoy the fact that you made and make things that are so surreal that people in the moment can't trust it. They can't trust that it's actually John Oates.
Yeah. Yes, which is much better than a pretend John Oates.
Absolutely. Well, it started as a joke, eventually pivots from a story about, the silly comedy festival, and it becomes this very personal story about you and your wife, Katie. And as Katie says in the film, and as those of us who have followed you don't generally talk about serious aspects of your personal life in your comedy. Reflecting back on it now, why do you suppose you felt like talking about this in your act and telling your story in the film in this way?
Well, so I think there's a few things. One is, in general, my comedy is stuff that happens in my life. It just is often not exactly personal, though I think the takes of it and the tone and some of the emotions sort of are. And with this, cancer had become such a big part of our life for a very long time. And I, thought, and I wanted to try to do it. Basically, I wanted to sort of to try to do that. And then there's also, I think, a part of me that, in general, I'm partially private for myself, but also for like on behalf of like Katie or on behalf of someone else, even though Katie actually, I think, was very happy with and in general would almost make fun of me for never talking about her or like things to do with us on stage. And so I thought it would be, again, I think like, I don't know if saying a fun challenge is the right way to put it, because it's not exactly, but I wanted to try it. And it had also become so much of, we went to the hospital like once a week for, 8 years or whatever it is, 9 years. So it's sort of, I think it was just something that I want to try. And I guess it's also strange to document that moment since it's not exactly, what I normally do. But at the same time, also, I think that I do very much think that comedy is about relating to people. And I think if there's people who find any kind of solace in it or, find it a brief distraction or something warm, I think that's great.
It's a pretty remarkable sequence in the film where you try to bring this material about Katie and cancer to the Bell House, and that seems to spark people like Bobcat Goldthwait and John Glazer. I think Jim Gaffigan might have been either after or before you. I can't recall in the film sequence, but it just sparks them to tell stories about cancer and disease, and it's very emotional. I've watched the film as we're speaking twice now, and I have a hard time with it, I have to say. And it's ostensibly about a comedy festival. I mean, you've made something very dynamic and emotional and heavy. I imagine this wasn't what you set out to do on some level.
I mean, I guess in a sense there wasn't something I set out to do.
Yeah.
But I think I am glad that that it's emotionally resonant. I think that's an important part of, movie and comedy and art, and entertainment. But a lot of the credit of sort of putting that together, or much of it, is Julie. She directed the movie and assembled it and figured out how to take these very different elements and sort of put them into one cohesive story, in a very caring way. So I think that that's, I don't know what we set out to do exactly, but I feel like she did a really wonderful job.
It's a gorgeous looking and well sequenced, edited film, if that makes any sense. I think it's wonderful.
I can't wait till there's a movie poster and on it says "well sequenced" with an exclamation point.
Please blurb me. I've never used well sequenced in such a way, but I think that's right. I think that's the way you talk about. I took some film classes. Isn't that what you're supposed to say?
Probably. I think the best comedy is both true and untrue.
Exactly. The film's title is "It Started as a Joke," and I feel like it is initially framed as being the festival that started as a joke, but I can't help but feel like it evolves somewhat as the film goes on to reflect other aspects of life. Does it mean more to you than the Eugene Mirman Comedy Festival in this context?
Yes, I think it does. I think it also is the film, and I think it's sort of an apt title because of that.
Does it feel like it's about life in a lot of ways? I was just having a conversation with someone about this pandemic, and he was saying, like, the comedians who are making jokes about this are baffling me because their whole livelihoods are gone in a way, doing stand-up live and blah and everything else. And I said, well, I think comedians are kind of weirdly built. We've been as comedians, we embrace comedians, I think, because they're laughing at death. They're laughing in the face of hardship every day in some ways. And I think of you and your approach to absurdism as being like, everything's kind of a farce. Let's just make fun of it. Do you relate to that?
Well, I think that, making fun of stuff, it's a lot of things. One, it's a way to cope. Another way is it's a way to, bring moments of joy to a terrible thing.
Yeah.
It's not like I could make fun of cancer so much it wouldn't be cancer, but it doesn't mean that you have to be, sad all the time, though the sadness is always there. I guess the point of this is you inherently have more than one emotion at any time. Yes. And so I think, everything's changing. Livelihoods are changing, and we have to get through this, and that's what happens with disasters and trauma and disease. So I don't know. I think it's very reasonable to react with comedy. It doesn't mean that the coronavirus isn't a terrible thing that is changing people's lives.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. There's a moment in the film where you and Katie articulate who you think this film is for and maybe why it exists. Can you revisit that scene and whether or not your opinion on that has changed in any way?
I like how you're vague enough that I'm like, we made this film for John Hamm.
I'm trying to be conscious of spoiler alerts. That's all.
No, I know. Yes. So I have a son, a 3.5-year-old toddler. One of the things that is sweet about having this movie and this sort of document of this time is, hopefully it's something that when he grows up, when he's 48, when he's, I don't know, a teenager or something, can watch and enjoy, and hopefully, see a little bit of his mom. Though he, we have lots of photos and videos and talk about her all the time. But yeah, I think that there's a degree that we both kind of thought that it would be this sweet thing for him, and we hope it's true.
Yeah, I think it will be, and it is that. What about in terms of what it says about comedy? It is a time capsule for a point in time for comedy as well, right?
Yeah.
And that's that's pretty much it. It captures this moment, your peer group. Have your friends who were in the film, have they seen the film? Have you gotten reception or reaction to it from them?
Yes, I think a lot of them. We screened it at South by, and there was a screening in Brooklyn, and I think that friends have really enjoyed it, and I think everyone's excited for it to come out.
Yeah. Well, I know that we've talked about this pandemic and everything's really up in the air, but I would like to end by asking sort of what's next for you, if you can even maybe assess what might be next for you. Do you have plans at the moment?
I mean, I have projects I'm working on, but I think like everyone, I'm mostly trying to get through this pandemic. And then, for me in general, I wasn't planning on touring for a while anyway, because I want and need to be home for my son. But, that isn't to say that I had started doing sort of this monthly show in Somerville, Massachusetts, and then a pandemic stopped that. But my guess is when things return to, whatever the new normal is, and whether we're wearing face masks or shaking hands is no longer happening. But once we can sit within 6 feet of each other, I hope to get back to doing stand-up and working on things. Julie and I are going to try to start a small record label, I think, and, continue working on projects. I did a podcast a while ago that I really enjoyed doing, so maybe that's something that I would do again. But basically, I'm going to try to largely do projects I can do from home, meaning in my town, not at my house. And then, we'll go from there.
Okay. It's been, 5 years since your last album, right? I think that's right. The 9 volumes?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes, exactly. It has been 5 years. I mean, and again, I think it's, obviously I haven't toured nearly as much, and I've sort of been home with Katie and with Oliver, but I will probably start writing, and I have some new material, or a bunch, but we'll probably start writing more and doing it more once I can, and hopefully in a year or two put out a new album or special.
Excellent. Okay. So Eugene, where can people go to learn more about both the film, It Started as a Joke, and you, I suppose?
I guess they can go to my website to learn about me, maybe, probably. That's a good place. And then, which is eugenemirman.com. Mm-hmm. And then It Started as a Joke. I think if they went to the Pretty Good Friends website, there would be a bunch of stuff on there about it. And then they can just pre-order it on iTunes or order it, or wherever they want to. It'll also be on, I think, Amazon and Vudu and Google Maps.
Okay, it's not going to be on Netflix or anything.
I think not yet, and I think it's going to stream in other places, and then there's a distribution plan that I know exists, but I don't know its details. So maybe if you're in Australia, it'll be on Netflix. I don't really know.
Okay, well,
I just know you can buy it for now.
Buy it, and I urge people to do it. It's a wonderful film, as I say. It's very moving. It's very funny, and it's called It Started as a Joke. Eugene, thank you for this time, and thank you for all your work, and for speaking with me over the years. It means a lot, and I truly do wish you and Oliver and all your friends and family the best of luck going forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this interview.
Very special thanks to you for listening to this episode with Eugene Mirman, and very special thanks to Eugene Mirman for appearing on this 535th episode of Creative Control. Eugene is someone I've admired for a long time. I think my friend Jim Guthrie turned me on to his very first album, which is called The Absurd Nightclub Comedy of Eugene Mirman. and it came out, I don't know off the top of my head, must have been 15, 16 years ago or something. Incredible album. He's released many other albums, and we've talked over the years. He talked to me for my old Mish Vish Interracial Morning Show on CFRU. He talked to me for CBC about his book, The Will to Whatevs. He's been on this podcast, Creative Control. He means a lot to me. So thank you, Eugene. I wish all the best to you and your family. As I said there, I wish our circumstances were, your circumstances were better, and obviously our circumstances were better. But it is what it is at the moment. I urge you all, as I said there, to check out this documentary. It started as a joke. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So thank you, Eugene. And again, yes, thank you for listening to this 535th episode of Creative Control, which is part of the Entertainment One podcast network and is available on all iOS and Android platforms, and also other things like YouTube and Spotify and Audio Boom. If you can't find an older episode of the show that you're looking for, like that 2015 appearance by Eugene Mirman, which might not be in the podcast feeds, or if you want to learn more about me and sign up for my regularly scheduled newsletter, please visit my website, Vishkana, which is spelled exactly how it sounds. You can also like Creative Control on Facebook, or follow the show on Twitter at Vish Creative. Creative is with a K, by the way. Or you can follow me on Twitter at Vish Kana, and Kana is also spelled with a K. Also, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control to make a flexible monthly donation to keep this podcast going. There is a $6 or more tier now that gets you exclusive content. As we're speaking, I just recently posted a lengthy 2009 conversation that I had with Sufjan Stevens on his tour bus outside of Lee's Palace in Toronto. And so, yes, if you donate or pledge $6 or more a month, then you have access to stuff like that. So again, patreon.com/Creative Control. Thank you for your support in this day and age, now more than ever. Thanks again to Pizza Trokadero, The Bookshelf, Planet Bean Coffee, and Grandad's Donuts for their in-kind support for this show. Thanks as always to my good friend Jim Guthrie. As I mentioned, he introduced me to the work of Eugene Mirman, and Jim lends me music for this show sometimes. The music you're hearing right now behind me, faintly, that's Jim. Go to jimguthrie.org for more information about that. Also, a quick shout out to Claudia Gonson of the Magnetic Fields for granting me permission to play a little bit of their 2008 song, Too Drunk to Dream, which is featured in the Eugene Mirman documentary that I mentioned, or that we've obviously been talking about on this episode. It's featured in the film. I wrote to Claudia today to say, is it okay if we use that song in the show? And she said yes. So, and look out for the new Magnetic Fields album coming out in May. It's called Quickies. Maybe more information about that on the show sometime soon. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you so much for listening. I will talk to you very soon. And please subscribe to the podcast, tell your friends, all that stuff. And take care of yourself and hold your loved ones close, as close as you can, because you just never know. Bye for now.